Invitation to the Cookout. It's hot in the middle of the summer right now. You got your boy, TheeAlexMAc. We got Mr. Dapper Dom. He got little merchandise with the name on it. He didn't give me the memo though, man. Next time I'm gonna come get my little tagline on it, man. But man, we back here, man, and I think we got I know we got a good episode ready for y'all. These next few we're gonna get a little bit deep. You know, when we talked to you guys, and we talked to you at the beginning, you know, that first premiere episode, we really just talked about how, you know, this is spanning, you know, everything. Yeah, so we talk of food a lot, but we talk about health. We talk about fitness. And one thing, you know, that Dom's really going to get us in the space with is just mental health. You know, we are in Men's Mental Health Month right now. And we thought that, you know, it'd be doing a disservice if we didn't, you know, take time as two black men to really kind of, you know, dive in that and engage with it. So, we're going to get a little vulnerable in here, man, but I think it'll be a good conversation.
Yeah, man. Sure. I know last episode we touched a little bit about obesity and talked about like 1 in 3 Americans was considered obese. I kind of want to stay on that realm, but not like just, I'm going to throw out a new term, Sizeism.
Okay.
And so Sizeism is like prejudice or discrimination against someone's size or weight.
Okay.
Now, the most prevalent one, of course, people talk about is weight when it comes to sizeism. But there also is a stigmatism to it when it comes to height as well. Like they say, like people can be discriminated for a job, or like people might be thought they're not tall enough, or maybe even like you might be too tall and kind of awkward and stuff like that. But I want to pivot, take it back to like our childhood a little bit. And I know I threw out about height, and you talked about your height in other podcasts. Do you feel like there were certain things that people kind of limited you on, or even you were teased on growing up because of your height? Do you feel like you could talk about that in any way to anybody, like your parents or your friends? So yeah, I'll let you kind of answer that and kind of go with it from there, man.
Yeah, man. For me, I like to refer to myself now as a short king. You know what I'm saying? So I just gotta let you know, it's power up in that.
Yeah.
But man, when I was growing up, man, I definitely got teased quite a bit just for, you know, height for sure. Yeah. I've always been just like one of the smaller guys just growing up. Yeah. So it was something that I was teased about quite a bit. I'd probably say, man, kids can definitely be cruel.
For sure.
They can say some, I think, just having my own kids and knowing, like, maybe it's not intentional, but maybe it's the fact that they don't have a filter. Yeah. So they just say things as they see them, not knowing that there's things that's behind it.
Yeah.
And then you got some people that's probably trying to pack a punch with it, but probably around like that 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, man, like, I definitely got teased a lot just about, like, size. And you know, one of the things too is I got teased about, like, we talked about this before, like, we were poor growing up. So I remember, like, vividly still to this day, my dad, I don't know what kind of car it was, but it pretty much was like a hoopty, man. It was like, I don't know if it was like Oldsmobile. It was something that was like, we never had the best of cars. We always had just like pieces of car. I mean, it was blue, long, like one of those big old school joints. And it's probably like 4th or 5th grade, man. Like the kids, they had a song about me and the car, man. It's like, man, I think it was like, who just got out of hoop day? Alex McGowan. They had a name and everything.
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah, man. They had a. So, man, growing up, I think for me, and I think probably for us coming up in that time range, it wasn't really talking about it, but it was just like having that tough exterior. Yeah. So, like that age range, I know because during that time period, they had these things at school where you had like good behavior trips at the end of the year. Or different things that you would get to go to. And there was a lot of them I missed. But for me, it was just like, defending myself because people were like trying to tease or bully me, and I just was like, I wasn't having it.
So you got, did you get into a lot of fights?
I definitely was. And I think that's where, like, that mentality from me comes. Like, online, my line name, Omega, they call me Scrap.
Okay, yeah.
So it just comes from that, like, mentality of, like, not backing down, just being taught that, not backing down from people, man. And so it was, like, a lot of that of just trying to, get people to really respect me. And I don't think at the time I really realized, what was going on. Yeah. But, like, looking back, I definitely was teased and bullied. And I probably would say, like, there were some periods of time, maybe off and on, where it was kind of like maybe some insecurities, about, height and different things like that. And then I think after a while, I just developed such a good exterior to where, like, it didn't even bother me. Yeah. I can honestly say it doesn't even bother. Like, even now, people make short jokes, and it's like, man, I've heard that for so long and so often. Like, it's nothing that you can really say in that realm anymore that makes me not feel good about myself.
Yeah. So, as you say that though, but when did that switch flip? Because it's like now you're a grown man and you probably secure in who you are, but as a kid, as an adolescent though, like, how did that affect you mentally? You know what I'm saying? From a standpoint, because like, before you answer that, because I was talking about, like, I talked about last episode, like, I don't think I'm like obese or anything like that, but like, if you look at my BMI, I tell you that. But like, I went through a period, because maybe like 5th grade I started getting a little chubby. 6th grade definitely started putting it on. Matter of fact, man, when I played Pee Wee football, I played running back and DN. So I had to have but it was kind of cool, because that's back when Jerome Bettis was with the Steelers. So like, I was kind of like the minute buzz, something to look up to. But at the same time, I mean, too, it was like, man, like, I don't feel as fast as I used to be, or as quick as I used to be. Matter of fact, my cousins growing up used to call me Squirrel, because I was quick.
Oh, man.
Back growing up. But then, like I said, that 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, like, I even remember, man, 7th grade basketball, we used to scrimmage sometimes during the high school football games. I mean, not high school football games. We used to scrimmage during the high school basketball games. And I remember my sister, I have 2 older sisters, but my next oldest sister, I remember her coming home one night and was like, my friends was in the stands talking about, Trina, your little brother fat. And me, so I already knew, like, the jersey was kind of snug, so I would feel myself, man, just kind of like pulling on the jersey,
right? Trying to get what's wrong with it.
But it's like, I kept that to myself, and like, there's so many kids who suffer in silence, and like, I don't know for myself when I became comfortable in who I was, or even only think I felt like I could talk to anybody, just because you like, the way we grew up, it was like, be a man, toughen up. Because another thing I want to talk about too is bullying. So the Institute of Education Science, I mean, we'll share this link because it breaks down different various forms of like bullying and stuff like that. But it's a study that they did last year. 19% of kids feel like they're bullied at school, and I think it's 22% girls, 17% boys. But then even in this study, it only shows less than like 2% of the kids like tell a parent or tell somebody about bullying. Like, and size is like the leading thing that kids get bullied on. And so it's like, you having kids and I have kids now these days too, but like, when us growing up, we called it capping, joining, whatever you call it.
Absolutely.
We used to make fun of our friends. I more so didn't make fun of kids that I really didn't know. Yeah. But like, friends that I knew.
And that was part of how we got down.
But it was like, but some of those things were hurtful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, did you feel like you could have went to your boy and said, I don't know if I could have went to kid, AKB, bro. Hey man, what you said was kind of hurtful, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like, Because it has some truth. They say every joke has some
back
truth.
then, we,
to
you
it.
know,
like how did you handle that? Like,
And back then, you know, they weren't. You know, it was gonna be some words that I'm not gonna repeat. That would have been that we would have been called if we would have displayed that type of emotion, you know, to a friend. And I think it was. I tried to your point, like. If it's with somebody that you cool with, it's almost a terms of endearment. Like, hey, we this cool, you know. We ain't really now. If it's somebody I don't know, like we might have to get down, get down, or swear up or something. But somebody I'm cool with, like it comes across a different way. I almost feel like, and I do feel like, back then it was just the time frame was, I almost feel like it was almost like a survival type of thing. Yeah. Like as we were growing up, it was like, hey, survive the best way that you can. And I always try to say, especially as being a parent now and, you know, looking back, I think at any era, I always try to say, like, unless your parent is like beating you or not neglecting you or not giving you food, like for the most part, the parent does the best with the information that they have at that time. Mm-hmm. So you also have to think too, like, I don't even really feel like I heard therapy or any of that stuff talked about, probably not even probably it's early for me hearing it very mainstream talked about, maybe like 5, 6, definitely not 10 plus years ago, where it was like very mainstream and accepted and people were talking about it. And I think for us too, especially, and I've seen this in a lot of different places in our black community, is maybe showing a little bit more because we're rerouting everything to, hey, you need to pray. You need to go to church. You need, like, that's your remedy. Yeah. If you're a believer, which, you know, there's a high index within our community, then it's like, hey, you don't need what man has. You got, you know, what God has. Yeah. And I think there's some things to learn in that space as well in terms of, like, I believe that everything was created for a reason, right? So if you think all the way from, you know, jobs and industries and all those things, like all those things was purposeful.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
If we have therapists, if we have psychiatrists and different people here that he has created, then why would we not believe that it's something that we could tap into? Yeah. That's probably maybe a different conversation. Yeah. You know, in this,
because I used to say that Jesus in the gym used to keep me sane. You know what I mean? But now, like, I'm a huge, component of therapy. You know what I mean? Like, I talk about, like, I'm a life coach, but, like, the difference between, like, a therapist and a life coach, one, you know, therapists have to go to school, get bachelors, get masters. Life coach, I can get a certification. But also, two, like, they're professional, mental health professionals who can diagnose anxiety and depression and all these things, whereas a life coach is, hey, I'm trying to help you build for the future. Like, you've healed. You know what I mean? Like, you feel like you've healed. Now it's more so, man, how do I get from, hey, I'm at this point in my career, or I'm this point, like, relationship wise or health wise, and I want to get to here. So there's no trauma involved in it, where therapists help you heal from the trauma piece. But yeah, like you said, I think it's that stigma in the African American. Like, if you go see a therapist, they think something's wrong with you mentally. Yeah, I'm feeling like, you look crazy. No, they're like, no, we all have brokenness. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And little cracks within our armor that came from things that happened to us back then. And like you said, like the topic that we're talking about now, as I look back, me and my friends was capping, having fun, but I was like, something that was kind of hurtful. Yeah, absolutely. Like, and someone that developed some insecurities, although, like, I was a popular kid, I played sports, I still had some insecurities under here that I wasn't talking about. Absolutely. Because, hey, I got to be tough. You know what I'm saying? I got to have that tough exterior. I can't talk about feelings because you're a black man. You know what I mean? Like, my dad's a super provider, man. Has always made sure food on the table, clothes on the back, provided for not just our needs, but our wants as well. But then when it comes to that emotional capacity space, you know what I'm saying? Like, it really wasn't there, like me and him talk a little more, or a lot more actually, now that I'm an adult, you know what I mean? But, and so going back, like, let's talk about, like, you have kids now, you're around kids. Like, do you hear those cabs to joining going on between your boys and their friends? And, like, how do you interject? How do you talk about that with them? Like, that's, like.
That's, you know, I try to, man, that's a great question. That's a great, because of where we are, I think that maybe it is toxic, but I think it's an element. I think there's elements of all cultures that maybe are good, bad, indifferent, right? So I think for me, part of what I'm trying to do as a dad, and we literally were having conversations about this earlier today before I left the house, is I want them to understand who they are as a people, right? And I want them to understand that in this environment, I like to call where we're at right now, it's a bubble in terms of, it's probably the only place I've ever lived where there isn't an outward space where there's impoverished black people at.
Yeah.
And so I think with that, it's a good thing because you're seeing, you know, professionals, you're seeing, you know, people that's well off and established and doing good things in the community, but also helping them understand, like, there's different, you know, they like to say, like, black people, we're not a monolith, right? Like, we're not all the same. Yeah. And so I think I want them to understand that there's parts of the culture that you're going to miss and that you're not going to get here. So there are some times, like, when my kids have, you know, problems at school and someone is trying to bully them or trying to make them feel left out, I'm like, hey, you need to get back at them. Yeah. They saying you know, whatever, or, you know, you got buck teeth, like, let them know how you feel, because and some of that is probably just a reaction. Yeah. Maybe it's not the right thing. Maybe it's not the wrong thing. Yeah. But I think for me, it's just, that was my defense mechanism is, hey, if you got something crazy to say to me, I'm going to say something crazy. And I think for me, a lot of it also stems from two things. Being able to express yourself and say what you feel to people. Okay. I know for me, there used to be a saying my dad would tell me in situations, and it helped me, but as I got older, I realized it hurt me because I wasn't always using my voice. He would say, you know, frogs, when it rains, the rain rolls off of their back. And so he was basically just telling me, like, hey, when people are saying things or doing different things to you, a lot of times you just got to be like that frog to let that water roll off of your back. Yeah. And I would say, I think most people who know me, I embrace that, you know, but I think sometimes there has to be a healthy balance between, like, no, I'm not letting this slide. Like, I gotta be able to do that. So I think that's the first piece in terms of why I think maybe I'm trying to course correct things that I felt like I didn't do when I was their age, and help them kind of fight through that. And then I think the second thing is, that really concerns me is just the alarming, suicide statistics amongst young people. Yeah. And with my son about to be 10, like, you start to get in that age range. My concern is, if you're not saying anything, I mean, in all his classes, he's pretty much been the only black boy, like, and you're pushing these things inside, like, that concerns me that, hey, could that be something that he potentially turns to because he's in a space where he doesn't see people like him? We're telling him not to do. So I think I'm probably being, within this environment, more vocal to say, like, no, you let them know how you feel. Like, you don't let nobody just say anything, you know, about you. And then when he's around his friends, because he has a good group of friends that really represent, you know, who he is and who we are as black people in the community, then they have fun with it just the same way that we do. They act like brothers. Sometimes they get into it, but then they iron it out and they back to playing the game. So I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I do feel like because of this environment, I want him, and I'm very specific in letting him know, you know, the affirmations. That's been a thing that's been very big.
And I was going to touch on that later on.
Yeah, that's been a thing that's been very big in the mainstream. And so that's why I want to, again, you're in a space where you don't, you know, they're not, I don't even think they teach Black history in school anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, where are you getting these affirmations that let you know, like, and your skin is beautiful, your hair, your twist, that's beautiful, your smile, everything about you is beautiful. You a king, like letting them know every day when you leave the house, like you're no less than anybody else, even though you are not seeing that in the spaces that you're in.
Yeah. Now, I know for me personally, like I just said, like growing up, I didn't feel like I had that space to be like, hey, Dad, I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you give your kids that space and you go to them and say, hey, Kaya, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I've gotten better. I know we'll talk about this in depth, you know, as we go along, but as I've went through therapy and I've got a chance to look back, I know there are a lot of things that I always say, like, they're part of me.
Yeah.
They're half me and half their mama, right? So if there's things that I know that I've dealt with, I want to try to be proactive and kind of helping them get ahead of those things. Because you asked earlier, like, when do you feel that switched?
Yeah.
Or you became, you know, more. And for me, I think it came through women. Like I got like I'll just being real. Like I got in high school, you know, I started to, you know, my dance thing was just like helping me understand that you have strengths. Everyone has different strengths. And how do you use that? So for me, like in playing football, it was like I was uber aggressive and I felt like a giant slayer. Even though I wasn't the biggest, I wasn't gonna back down. So I made my niche in being able to be good in that and being a captain and being a starter and being a letterman. And with that came that attention and that validation in terms of like, no, I'm legit because X, Y, and Z, or she is saying this and she is saying this. And it kind of fills that cup. Looking back, not in a way that I probably would have liked because it led to, you know, other behaviors. But I do believe that, you know, I'm trying to be proactive and say like, hey, you don't need validation from anybody else to feel like, man, I'm a king.
Yeah, because and I'm glad that you kind of came back and said that because I do individual therapy. And one thing, man, that came out a while back when I first started therapy was what you just said. Like when I just actually like, when did that switch flip for you is when I start getting validated by females and other people. But then it was like my identity became wrapped up in the validation of what other people thought about me. And so like that's a slippery slope because like you take that
because think of it like a gas tank, right?
Yeah,
hey, they filling you up. So when you feel low, you're like, let me go out there and get some more of that validation. And it leads to that, you know, some behavior that can get reckless at times.
And so like, how do you? Because I'll talk about like how I talk to my 13-year-old about like confidence, and then I'll ask you how do you talk to your sons about confidence, and even you coach kids, I train kids, like. How do you talk to them about confidence? So I'll kick it off. Like I try to tell my son that he's not a big of a talker, so I'm hoping that he's soaking in some of the stuff I'm saying. But I try to ask him more questions than talk because I tell him I want to have a conversation with you, not at you. And so like I want to get your 13-year-old perspective because I want to understand how you see the world. And then, like, if I can come to understanding, because I used to be 13, like you just said, you came from me, so you're part of me. So some of the feelings and things that you have, I had those. And so I want to hear from you first. But then also, let me give you this 38-year-old perspective. You know what I mean? And so when we talk about confidence, like, I tell them, like, a lot of people get caught up in the world looking at what they don't have versus what they do have. You know what I mean? And like he was a quarterback last year on this football team, and you look in the huddle, he probably the shortest one in the huddle. You was the quarterback, but shortest one in the huddle. And like, don't worry about your height.
Yeah.
Like, you're gifted with the smarts to, man, I can play quarterback and know where everybody's supposed to be. I'm fast, I'm quick. Like, focus on what I have and how I can utilize those gifts versus, man, why God didn't make me? Because I know I wanted to be like 6'1", 6'2", bro. And I looked at cats, and 6'1", 6'2", man. Like, I just looked at cats on the football team at the U of A who was fast, who was big, but like wasted that talent. I'm like, bro, if I had Joe's speed,
I can't tell you how many times I
yeah, you know. But then it's like, but then that diminishes. Okay, man, taking the focus on. Well, what did God give me the ability to do? You know what I mean? And so I try to tell him, like, focus on what you have. Also, be confident in who you are. Like I said, as far as your dad probably thought he was, think he is. There's somebody out there who don't think I'm attractive. You know what I'm saying? There's somebody who, and everybody's not for everybody. I said, so it's okay. Somebody call you ugly, cool, fine. Just know you're not. You know what I'm saying? Have the confidence. I like it. Also, at your age, somebody might call you ugly and they really like you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I remember that little backdoor trick.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Tell them you ugly.
Yeah.
She really feeling you. You know what I'm saying? So I tell him, like, so don't worry about what people say about you, because everybody is not for everyone. Yeah. So focus on the gifts that you have. Be confident in who God designed you to be. Is like the conversations I have with him. And then, like, the kids that I train kind of preach the same thing about confidence. Like, hey, don't worry about missing a shot. If you're not the only person who's missed a shot. Don't worry about if somebody's quicker than you dribbling or have better ball handling than you. Like, what do you do well? And then try to maximize it. If you feel like you're a great rebounder, man, how can I be the best rebounder on the floor? Because if I can secure defensive rebounds or even secure offensive rebounds to give my team extra possessions, coach gonna keep me on the court. Hey, I might not be the most elite scorer, but if I'm really good at defense and I'm stopping the other team's best scorer from just really getting off, I'm helping the team. You know what I mean? So focusing on yourself, your gifts, your abilities. Like, what are those conversations like with your kid when you come to confidence? And also, too, well, I mean, I guess we talked about this a little bit. Like, I try to tell because it almost feels like, and I'm backtracking for a second, like you said, like a rite of passage when we joked and talked about each other. Because it almost feels like part of that created that dog that our kids seem like to be missing sometimes. So part of you want them to kind of have that tough exterior and be able to, like, hey, yeah, this happened, but I'm going to keep pushing. But also, too, I want to get into space to say, man, if that really hurts you, like, you can talk to me about it and we can work through it together. So, like, how do you talk to your kids about having confidence in who they are, and then the kids you coach as well?
And I think you made a good point, and that's the way I kind of think about it, is you got to have perseverance, right?
Yeah.
Because life is going to throw you adversity left and right. And so you got to figure out a way, how do you navigate through that? Now, I think there is ways to also take into account what you said, like how do you process your feelings as you're going through that. So even though you're fighting through the adversity, that still don't mean that it isn't tearing you up. It's not real inside. So I think those two things can still coexist in terms of saying, like, man, this is a tough time in my life. Like, I got fired, or like, man, I'm homeless right now. Like, there's some that extra oomph you need to know, like, man, life is knocking me up right now. It's knocking me back down, but I'm going to get back up. I'm going to keep getting back up. So I think that's something for this generation that I feel like there is not a lot of that. And it's, you know, hey, I got my hand out. Hey, I got fired from my job because I cut somebody out, but I'm going to put a GoFundMe up. Like, no, like, you got to go out there and get it. Like, why are you asking me for my hard-earned money? Because you got fired from a job that you was acting up at. But I think in terms of, like, my kids, and I share a lot of the same things in terms of, you know, be grateful for what you have. It's the exact same thing. Like, I like I said, have always been one of the smaller people. And so I would just try to think about, like, hey, there's things that I've been blessed with. Even when you take it outside of athletic range, just things that I've been blessed with and that I've worked with that's helped me get to a space where I can feel really good about where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I like to say my boys are me at two different stages of my life.
Okay.
My youngest is probably more of me, older me now, like uber confident, like he's probably overconfident at times. Like I'll be talking to him and I'll be like, man, yeah. I'll be like, man, you think man, what you think like if you and LeBron James played a basketball, he'd be like, man, I'll take him. I'll beat him. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
My oldest is younger me. Very, very soft-spoken, shy, reserved until he kind of feels you out and feels comfortable around you. And he can struggle with the confident side of things, whether it's sports or whether it's just feeling like he's valued within the spaces that he is in. And I know specifically, and it's crazy nowadays, man, but I'm just trying to adapt a little bit, but he has an iPad, and at first it was just, people that we knew, friends that we knew. He could, FaceTime and text them, but this year it got crazier because his class did a group chat, and I mean, all these kids have things, so it's all the people in there, it's girls and all this stuff, so every once in a while I just pop in and just check out what's going on. So there's a girl from his class, and basically she was just like, I think she liked him, but at 9 years old, she basically told him that she had a boyfriend. And then in the chat thing, she sent a picture of saying boyfriend to my son. It was like, basically saying that he looked better than my son.
Yeah.
I told my wife, I said, no, I ain't playing that, man. So I asked him, I was like, how that make you feel when she said that? He was like, I ain't like that. And I was like, not to get at nobody's kid, but I'm like, hey, you won't never let no one feel like they can just knock you down like that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, especially as they're learning and trying to process those feelings about girls at this age, getting into those prepubescent stages, it's like, you don't entertain anybody that's going to not value you as a person, and trying to help them understand creating boundaries. Like, if you guys are cool, then it's okay for her to have somebody else, but she doesn't need to try to knock you, within that same space. And so, I always try to say with my kids, like, prayerfully, they live long enough that the 18 or however many years that they're with me, that's going to be the smaller part of their life, but it's getting them ready for when they're confronted with these situations and mom and dad can't guide them and make the decisions for them anymore and protect them. It's like, okay, helping them understand how do you navigate, because people are going to say mean things to you. People are going to, talk about you because of your skin color, because of your height, because of your size, like all those different things. And how do you navigate through those things and have responses that you will feel good about as a person, and proud that you made that decision, but you also feel good because you've established that person is going to respect you. And so it's the same type of conversations, but I feel like within this space, because of where we're at, because of, like you said, the statistics, I'm probably more like very, very much involved in those types of things. And it's funny too with having the teams and all the boys around, and sometimes picking kids up, you overhear the conversations. So you're hearing, especially with them getting older, and starting to actually voice that they're liking girls, and girls are liking them, and they're so-called being boyfriend and girlfriends. There's sometimes I just drive and I don't say nothing. I just listen. I just act like I'm a fly on the wall, and they just get to talking, and I just get to understand where their mindsets are at and what people are saying at school, and how the girls are treating them and all those different types of things. But I think for me, my approach is very much, I don't want them, like my dad used to always tell me, I want you to be better than I was as a man. Yeah. I want you to be more successful, more this, more than that. And I know there's things that I've done as a young man and as a man that I'm not proud of, that I wouldn't want them to do. Yeah. And so I'm trying to instill that same thing. It's like, let me be in a knucklehead help you not be and clear some of those things out of the way so that you can be the best man that you need to be.
Yeah, like I tell my son, like I want to reverse the clock. So like whoever I was at 38, like the guy that I'm at 38, I want you to be that at 28. 20, you know what I'm saying? Like,
okay,
that we're backtracking, like you understand it, like, man, who I was at 20, that I'm already giving you tools and resources and tips that you might be that person at 15. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to give you that maturity to work through things, give you tools and resources and tips to work through things. I like to say, man, I tell people all the time, I want to deal in facts, not feelings.
Yeah.
Now, I want to validate your emotions are real.
Love that one.
But, hey, what's the facts? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are they telling? If somebody's telling you, man, you ugly, okay, that's their opinion. That's not even a fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not a fact. Like, don't take what they're saying and make that factual. You know what I mean? Like, I train and coach kids a lot, but well, what coach said? Coach said that I'm turning the ball over too much or this and that, and that's why I'm not playing it. Okay, well, let's look at the stats. Mm-hmm. Like, is it factual? Yeah. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If that's the case, then how do we get better? I need to work on figuring out why am I turning the ball over? Am I playing too fast? Am I not seeing the whole court? You know what I mean? Feelings are real. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to diminish your feelings, but also to let's deal in the facts of the situation. Also, you got ready to say something earlier, and I gotta stop you because like this is probably one of the biggest nuggets as we talk about like sizeism and people discriminating on other individuals because of height, weight, size, whatever that might be. Like, what affirmations do you tell yourself or your sons? You know what I mean? Because like you said, like if I'm being fueled up by somebody else, then how I feel about myself is always going to be predicated on what others say about me. So like, are there some things that you say to yourself or to your boys on a daily basis before you send them out in the world?
Yeah, so we had a thing probably about maybe 2 years ago before they went to school. I wasn't that I was against affirmations. I just never had really dove into it and really, did my own thing. But I think it was just based around like sometimes we would come home and just have conversations about, school, what they did at school, or tests or something like that, and just feeling like they just weren't all the way, feeling themselves. And so probably about 2 years ago before school, before they would leave the house, I would have them, say pretty much 4 lines before they left. And it was pretty much, I'm a king. I'm a child of God. I'm destined for greatness. I'm going to change the world someday. Okay. I had them say it. And basically, they would get so much in unison, and I wouldn't even have to say it anymore. I would just have them, say it together before they left the house. And I definitely think it helped them see themselves in a different light. Ironically enough, and I think that's a theme for me, and hopefully everybody can see what the hat I got. I forgot the name of the company, but I had to figure it out and drop it in social. But I was very intentional when I got this. It says, fill your cup up first. So I don't necessarily do a good job of that. And there are some times like career and work wise, I was like, man, going through it, like really like hitting some adversity. And my wife like pulled me aside and was like, why don't you say the same things that you tell your sons to say before they leave to school every day? I was like, oh, yeah. That's
what I think about that.
Yeah. And I think that's something I want us to get into when we talk about as you get older. Like, I've gotten better, but I know I'm always trying to pour out my cup. And a lot of times my cup is empty or broken and I don't even realize it, but I'm still just trying to pour for my kids, there ain't nothing that I wouldn't do for them. And there's none that you can come up with that I would say no for them. But I do feel like, especially when you start talking about men and you talk about black men and the plight that we have every single day, I think we have to get better about seeing, how we take care of ourselves. And it doesn't always have to be therapy.
Yeah.
It could just be like carving out time. Like, hey, once a month, I just want to go golfing. Babe, I just want to go golfing for half a day.
Yeah.
That's my time to just decompress, be away from everything. Or, hey, I want to go to the shooting range or whatever it is that you like as a person. Like, those are things that you can do to refill yourself. I kind of say recharge the battery. But yeah, man, those are the things that I really focus on with them. And I've tried to get better with myself to kind of get that routine of, affirming myself. Like, hey, hey, with everything that you have going on, hey, you're still, worthy, of respect and all the things that, comes along with being on this earth.
Okay.
What's some stuff that you have?
Yeah, man.
That you like to do?
So, like we said, my son came from me. You know what I'm saying? Like, God gave me the ability of being able to talk to people, man, and be charming, and haven't always used that, you know what I'm saying, for good. And so, like, I see, some of those characteristics in him that, like, man, my son can be persuasive and, like, make you believe something that's not
real.
You know what I mean? And so I try
to,
So I try to tell him this affirmation that say that I am honest, I'm trustworthy, I'm a man of integrity that's been called to lead.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because as a leader, you can lead them in in the wrong direction. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can lead somebody in the wrong direction. I can't even remember what movie I was just watching, and they said that line to a character, like, I feel like you use your leadership for bad, like you don't use it for good. I can't recall the movie I was just watching, but I want him to be that guy that, man, like, leads your peers, and it's tough. I tell him, like, man, I get it.
Yeah,
it's not easy. I said, and there's gonna be some things that you do, like, mistakes happen in life, man. Like, let's just learn and grow through them. Like, this little small incident, man, had happened at school. He had kind of got in trouble for being out in the hallway with his friends. He tried to tell me it was his two friends that was playing. It wasn't him. I was trying to get back to class. And I said, hey, sir, look, you're not in trouble. Because 13-year-old me, if I saw KB and Justin in the hallway,
you was cutting up.
I'm finna cut up with them.
ain't cut up.
I said, because I'm 13. I said, well, now I'm 38. The teacher trusted you enough to say, okay, hey, Daly, you can go use the bathroom, come back. Don't break that teacher's trust of you giving you the responsibility of doing what you're supposed to do. So I ain't saying you can't stop and say what's up to you guys, but be like, hey, man, I'm going to catch y'all at lunch. We'll connect after school at practice or on the game. You know what I mean? Like, let you get back to class. Learn from it. Like, don't tell me you weren't. When I already know if I was 13, I'm stopping and cutting up with my boys. You know what I mean? And so, like, just try to tell him, like, things are going to happen in life. Like, let's talk through them. Like I said, affirmations, man. What you tell yourself. Also, too, in the chat, in the comments, man, drop some affirmations. That y'all tell y'all self. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might see one or two that I might want to start telling myself. So share some affirmations on how do you fill your own cup. How do you talk to yourself? Because I talked about rewiring last week. Like, I'm a big component of rewiring, and so like what you tell yourself. So share that with us. Go ahead.
So how about this? What we've talked about a lot about what we went through, now being fathers. What are some things that you do maybe differently than your father, your parents, with the knowledge that you have now, the things that you've went through, to maybe try to pave a different path for your boys?
I think I say over and over, hey, it's okay to be a man that had emotions. It's okay to talk about your feelings. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a, hey, man, men don't cry. We absolutely cry, bro. I tell them sometimes, I say, man, hey, we're up and get heavy that you might want to just turn on your favorite songs and go for a ride and shed some tears. That's straight, bro. Ain't nothing wrong with that. So I think I give them the opportunity and the space and like Mavs fly, but I still try to have conversations with them about like, hey man, it's okay for you to be upset that I told you no. But what you can't do is throw your toys down. Like that's not how we express our anger. Yeah, like it's okay to be angry. That's an okay emotion. But what's not okay is throwing stuff or slamming the door. Like we have to be able to process our emotions, whether they're good or bad, in a healthy way. So I think that's two things I do, man. I ask, give them the space to share, but and also to validate that having any type of emotion is okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So have your kids seen you cry before?
For sure. I'm pretty sure they have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I don't think I'm hiding it, bro.
So I think for me, man, like I'm definitely. I feel like I have done quite a few things different.
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, anybody who knows me knows the admiration I have for my father. I think a lot of people, when they're like, hey, who's the most influential X, Y, and Z? A lot of people are picking athletes and all of that. And I mean, for me, it's with no hesitation to this day, still my dad.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of things that I had to unrope in therapy because I was trying to be him. And because of the way that he grew up and the way I grew up, I just didn't have that wiring that he did to do some of the things that I've seen him do before. And that was definitely a thing growing up. Hey, you hear it a lot. Man up. Stop crying. Like all these different things.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We're not going to talk about it in this podcast, but like you say, like your dad was able to handle it. You weren't.
I feel it. I see where you're going.
They were actually able to handle it, or is there a lot that just still there?
Yeah. And them old school, them OGs is a different creature, man. That's a different model that they did back then. They don't make them like they used to, man. But that was something that I heard quite a bit, man. And I think for me, again, already being a shy person, and still to this day can very much be that when I'm in spaces where I'm not comfortable or don't know a lot of different people. I think not being able to express how I felt definitely caused me to do some things in different manners. So I've been very adamant with them. I think there's still a good line of discipline, right?
Yeah.
And the thing I'm sure you've heard it in your household, before, like, hey, I'm not one of your little friends.
For sure.
But I think for me, I've tried to create a good enough blurry line, and they know, like, hey, because I don't even raise my voice that much. So when I do, they know it's go time. They know, like, hey, Dad about to raise hell up in here if we don't get it together. Yeah. And I think that makes it more effective because it's like, hey, it's not happening often. It's not a lot of that, as much barking. But I do try to say the same thing when I talk to them, especially when situations happen, because I know I came from a household where you got that belt. You was going to get that belt growing up. And I backed away from that quite a bit because it's like, how do you understand how to talk through situations and understand, why did you make that decision? Maybe if it wasn't the right decision, we both know that. You know that, and we know that. That's why you got your head hung down and you doing all this. But let's try to understand, okay, why did you feel like that was something that you need to do? So I use the same tagline when I talk to them, like, when you're in trouble. And they'll go and be like, oh, well, I'm in trouble. I'm like, we just having a conversation. Did I take anything away from you? Did I ground you? Did I say you can't play some? You can't go outside with your friends? Like, when you in trouble, you'll know. Because you'll know what it feels like because you're not going to have certain things. But I think having those healthy conversations to talk through with them and really kind of say, like, how are you feeling? What caused you to make that decision? What could you do better next time? Because you're a leader, because you're a king, I'm having this conversation because I know we've talked about this and I know you know better, and these are my expectations out of you. And with my oldest, he's very good with it. My youngest, there's some times I have to get a hold of him a little bit more. Yeah. But those are definitely some things I have much expressed with them. Is like, man, if you feeling something, you feeling like you gotta, even if it's not just crying, but whatever emotion it is that you have to feel, you gotta express it. Because I know that I don't think it was because they explicitly said I couldn't come to them, but there were just some things that I wasn't going to come and talk to my parents about. And because of the things that I think our kids are challenged with nowadays, you're talking about suicide, you're talking about all these things that are being thrown in their face at earlier and earlier ages. I want that to be open lines of communications like, hey, maybe you did do something wrong. Yeah. And, in a scenario where like, hey, if you're out somewhere and you're not where you're supposed to be, but something's popping off, I would rather you call me and I come get you than you just keep digging a deeper hole and saying, well, if I call, I'm going to get in trouble. Yeah. Maybe, but could that keep you from doing something else stupid? Yeah. That to further compound the decision that you already made? Yeah. And so that's what I'm really trying to build with them, foundationally.
Okay. What are a few things you want the people to take away? And I'll go first, and then I'll let you. And I think I touched on the affirmations, man. Talk to yourself. Tell yourself positive things. You know what I mean? Like, don't let others' opinion of you affect who you are. Like, you can have those emotions, but rewire. Tell yourself that you are strong, beautiful, healthy, whatever that might be. Tell yourself that too. Also, too, if you have kids, you don't have to try to be their friend, but like give them a space to give you their perspective and let them talk. Like, let them talk. Don't just try to correct them, because you want them to feel heard. And if they don't feel heard, if they feel like mom and dad just going to hear what they want to hear, then why they going to be like, why do I want to waste my time talking to them? Because they're not hearing me. You know what I'm saying? So hear your children out. And also too, talk to them about respecting others and being leaders of, like, if they see bullying and stuff like that, hey, how do you combat that as a leader?
For me, I think it comes down to, and it's okay to be vulnerable.
Yep.
It's okay to be vulnerable, and really in tune with your feelings. I think where we're at is in a society is there's a lot of, like they call it, white noise. Yeah. And for me, that really means something that is trying to distract you, but it's something that's insignificant. And so when you go to social media, you'll see a lot of men being condemned for being emotional and being vulnerable. And I think there's a balance between, like, I think there still is a standard of being a man, right? And so I don't think anybody wants someone who's always moping and crying around. But, man, life is going to get hard. There's going to be some times when you're just really challenged. Being vulnerable, I think vulnerability leads to better communication. Okay. And I think communication in any type of relationship, any type of contract, anything is the key to success. If you don't have communication, if you don't have good communication, if you don't have transparent, if you don't have honest communication, then that could really turn things, upside down.
I'm laughing. My son just sent me a picture of some Jordan 4s.
He communicate with you. Daddy, this is what I want. Can you make this happen? Oh, that's divine timing right there. So I think that's a piece of it. And then I think as we really reflect on our younger selves, and that therapy in some way, shape, or form, not always to rectify something, but even as just to be proactive. There's no statistic that I know, but I would guarantee that most people have some things from their childhood, from their teenage years, from their young adult years that they haven't unpacked. And there were things that I was just like, man, I've gotten over this. And then I would look and be like, man, my actions say differently. That subconsciously my actions had me still doing things based off of stuff that had happened 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I wasn't even, cognizant enough to realize that. So I think you have to do that so that you can be the best version of yourself for yourself and for everybody that's involved in your life. So for me, those are the two things from my end, man.
Yeah. Well, good, man. Look, I know we didn't really talk about food or anything like that, but like we said, it's going to be a little bit about the culture. It's going to be a little bit about everything. Like we invitation to the cookout. We're going to talk about other stuff at the cookout. Appreciate y'all rocking with us. Like I said, man, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, all those too. Comment, engage with us. Things that you might want us to talk about. We out.
Hey, just like he said, man, we appreciate the feedback. We've been getting some of that so far. Hey, share this with friends. Yeah. Help us understand what you want to see from us. We try to do this for y'all, man. So we appreciate y'all. We out.
We out.